Hello and welcome to the Artellectuals podcast. Happy holidays. Today's guest is an award-winning perfumer from Hungary. We met when my wife and I partook in her perfume making workshop in Paris via Airbnb experiences. In our interview, Victoria goes through the rigorous process of perfume making, where it can take up to 4 years and over 700 trials to make the perfect scent. Throughout the interview, we discussed topics such as how smell is connected with the limbic system in the brain, which deals with emotions and memory. We also dove into the history of perfume making and discussed the differences between essential and synthetic oils, which there are over 5,000 of. So please stay tuned if you are interested in learning more about the creative process of perfume making. To learn about Victoria and her perfume, please visit her at viktoriaminya.com, ViktoriaMinya.com, or visit her Facebook page, which is Viktoria Minya, and Instagram, which is at Parfums Viktoria Minya. Thanks. Also, if you have a moment, please like and subscribe if you would like to stay up to date with future shows, where I'll be interviewing sommeliers, chefs, craftsmen, and many others who are all at the peak of their artistic careers. So now, without any delay, please enjoy our episode, overviewing the creative process of the perfume world with my guest, Viktoria Minya. You're probably doing a lot of meetings through Zoom nowadays, right?
I do.
Yeah, there has been a big
Everybody
shift, I'm sure.
does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. How do you can convey scent through a video screen, right?
Oh no, we can't. It's just for talking.
Just for talking. So you have to meet with people anyway, somehow.
I have to send them samples at least, yes, so that they can try it. They either, take the risk and try it with me, or they try it alone, but they have to smell it for sure.
Great. Well, how have you been transitioning your function as a business?
Well, it's very difficult, I think. As for everybody, I suppose, we have problems with the raw materials a lot, and we had them also for recent years. It's not a new phenomena, but obviously COVID didn't help. I'll just give you an example. Like, for example, the bergamot, is one of the main ingredients. It's a citrus that we use typically for freshness on the top of perfumes. And I know that many of the collection of the actual harvesting was not going on in Italy because of the restrictions. And so we are expecting that we're going to have less from that in a few years, and that will obviously increase the prices.
Oh, wow.
And we have many other examples that are in the same way.
Right. Yeah, even for when I wanted to purchase some perfumes, and I usually go to a mall or somewhere else to see them. I can't, and now they're all closed. So I basically had to just go online and, just plunge for it based on what the description was, which is not always the best way to do things, I think. But I'm guessing a lot of people have to do that these days, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
But you have a special niche market, I guess, and how do you before COVID, how were you conducting business? How are you making sales? What was your main tactic for that?
I mean, it's not really a tactic. I think it's a very well working scheme that we have. We have a lot of retailers all over the world, and I have a website. And since it's niche perfumery, a lot of people are specifically searching for, let's say, one of my best-selling fragrances called Hedonist, and so that became somehow a cult fragrance ever since it was launched in 2013. And so many people are specifically searching where they can find it. And so in the US, for example, there is a shop in the Valley Hills where they would go just for that, or they can order online, or they do the same thing on my website as well.
Yeah, that's how we got your perfume. For my wife,
Exactly.
She loves it. She loves that perfume, so she's very happy to get it.
I'm so happy. Yeah, good.
Yeah, because we got a sampler, and you gave us a little sample at the end of our Airbnb experience, so that was a great way as a selling point too. So even 2 years later, yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to get into a little bit more about philosophy, how you describe your work. How did you get started? Why are you doing perfume?
How did I get started? So that's a pretty long story, actually. Whenever I think I had the momentum whenever I was a small child. Whenever I was about 5 to 6 years old-ish. And I remember that I was in the garden, like we had a cottage, like a chalet in near Budapest. I'm Hungarian originally. And so my father was lawning them all.
Mowing
And
them.
sorry, exactly. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
made a mistake there.
No worries, no worries.
And so he was cutting the grass, okay. And I remember that there was a point when I was just like, inhaling, and I sometimes say that it was like such a beautiful mix between the fresh cut grass and like spring air just lingering around, that I do remember the feeling. It was a very intense feeling that I had due to the aromas mixing. And that I do recall that that was the time when I thought, okay, this is nirvana, and I have to conserve this, I have to have this, and I have to have access to this scent, and I have to have access to how this scent is making me feel. And I actually took like a very old pharmaceutical bottle that like we had at home, and I took the cut grass and I actually started to squeeze them into the bottle. And obviously, that got rotten in a few days, and I was crying and I had to throw it. but I somehow, I think there was something clicking there, that how like scent can trigger such an important mood change, or such an important emotion or sensation in our body, or mind or soul. And so I think this is where it all started, but it wasn't really an active choice until I was about 21 years old. Because that's when, like, my parents, I kind of was always attracted to all kind of arts. Like I used to dance and act and sing, and I was interested in photography and all the jazz. And somehow my parents were afraid that I will end up, with a circus or something. And so they kind of oriented me to go to basically just to have an average business diploma, because for them, that was like a safety net that I could always use. And now, being a parent, I kind of understand them. But at that point, it was difficult for me. In all cases, I do have a business diploma. And the deal was that I do that, and then I have, a free card. I just go for whatever I would like to do in life. And so I finished the last year of the university in Paris with the Erasmus program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Paris that I realized that being a perfumer is a possibility. I can actually do that. And there is a school in Paris and in general in France where I can train to be a perfumer. So from that on, that was a very obvious choice.
Great choice, and you're doing pretty well with that. That's great. So, how has the business degree helped you as well in your, in how you operate your business now?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe unconsciously a little bit, but not really. I think, to be honest, and I'm kind of revealing myself to you, but I feel like my parents pushing so much that I have a business diploma, and I'm not feeling at all any inspiration with that. I feel like kind of had the blockage, I just kind of blocked it during school, so I don't remember much.
Oh.
Maybe unconsciously I'm using stuff, but I don't remember much of the things at all that I learned there. So I highly doubt that I'm using them.
Yeah. But you, at the end of the day, you are running a business, so I guess you are putting it to some use. Yeah. Awesome. I like how you mentioned memories. So you were, when you experienced that cutting of the lawn and having that that strong emotional feeling. I'm just wondering, when fragrance brings us to a time from the past, how can you describe, that kind of feeling when it comes to smells and bringing us to certain kinds of memories? Do you think of that when you make perfume?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So first of all, how the mechanism is working is that smell is the only of our five senses that is directly linked to the limbic system of your brain. And this is why that basically within a fraction of a second, when you are introduced to a smell that you have a link to in your memory, that memory is directly triggered. And I have thousands of these stuff, and I call them olfactive flashbacks. And I think that's a wonderful sensation, and everybody has it. If not, then you just go on the street and you smell something, and then it makes you think of your first kiss or first love or whatever, a friend of yours. But everybody has these, and these are amazing and extremely, extremely powerful. And I actually do have one of my service. So it's called Memory in the Bottle. And we're trying to recreate actual memories of yours. So you come to my lab. I work in Paris, and then from the perfume organ that you can see next to me, we have 400 raw materials. You tell me about the memory that you have, and we're trying to recreate the scent to it. And that is lovely, actually. And it's beautiful to witness people recalling the memory, and it's beautiful to witness also when we're getting close to the olfactive memory itself.
Very cool. That's great. That's a great idea. I would love to be a part of that too. When next time I'm in Paris, whatever that
Please
might be
come.
possible. Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to.
Yeah, 2025. Let me book you.
Yeah, I would love to do it. Let's do it. Yeah, I also wanted to get like, what are you wearing now? Would you describe like a perfume? Like, you could smell it, but you can't do it on a screen. So what is like, how can you convey a message of what it smells like? What is a fragrance?
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's very interesting again. So I learned that based on also my experience, but before I went to perfumery school, I had no idea how to describe a scent. We're not like by definition learning it. And so you have specific vocabulary to describe scents, and it would be green or citrusy. But what is green? So green would be like, let's say, whenever you're smelling the tomato leaf, or whenever you're smelling the leaf of fig, or whenever you're smelling the fresh cut grass. Those are the green scents. And then you have the citruses, like because we consume a lot of orange juice and stuff like that, we kind of know what those are. Sweet usually is fine with people because everybody has a reference based on like their like gustative like sensations. They know when something tastes sweet, so they know how it smells as well, because those are two associated. But smoky, for example, it might be different for people. Leathery, it's quite specific, so that's fine. Woody and spicy, this is when I think it becomes a little bit more specific. And ambery, for example, musky, let alone musky, it kind of like everybody has an idea about musk in their mind, and then I actually show them real musk, and then they say, oh, that's not what I was thinking. So it's very difficult to describe scent. So what I usually like to do is to use experiences or sensations that more or less everybody has. So when you say musky, I can tell you that you might think of something else, or like somebody who is listening to this podcast might think of something else, but actual musk that we're using right now in perfumery smells pretty much like Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. So it's a bit powdery, it's a bit like sweet, it's a bit warm, it's quite enveloping. And so I like to give very specific things, and I think that's due to the fact that I've been a perfumer for the last 10 years, so I do have a very extensive knowledge to how to link actual raw materials to this, how to describe those scents.
Great. And how long, if you were just, when you make a perfume, what's the process? How long does it usually take you from start to finish?
So it can take up to years. It's very interesting, because I just launched the perfume in 2019. The end of 2019, I launched a series of 3 perfumes that we call the Absolute series, and we have been working on them for 4 years. Like, I had actually major life change things going on in my life, like major life events. I think this is how you call them in English. And so it's not like we started to work on it, in the morning we wake up, and we started to do it with my colleague, and then at the end of the day it's finished, and we're not just working on one perfume. We're typically working on many perfumes like in the same time. And sometimes there are times whenever we have to put aside that project and do something else. And I do teaching, and I give lectures and everything, and I used to travel whenever that was allowed. And so there's many things happening at the same time, but I would say the longest it took was this 4-year process, and the longest number of trials that we made was 777 trials. I think that's like enormous, actually. Wow. And sometimes it goes differently, but I would say a minimum of 6 months, 1 year for a perfume is what you could call realistic.
Wow, very long time. That's incredible. I would have no idea. Yeah. So that's
but I also feel yes, but I feel like I'm maybe particularly slow as well, as an artist. Like I think it's also depending on your style. Just like I know that there is, different like authors who are writing books. One guy is writing, I just read about a guy who wrote a book for 20 years, or no, it was the opera that he was writing for 20 years. And then there are some people who are just like doing it in the middle of the night and then it's ready on the next day. So I feel that there is two different or many different creating styles as well. Mine is
Sure.
like this.
Yeah. So would you say your craft is really influenced by other art forms? When you're mentioning painting and music and things like that, how much of that is
Yes,
that impacting your work?
it's very interesting because I feel that's relatively new. I remember when in perfumery school that we had a very, very known perfumer. His name is Olivier Grasse. He's like my hero, basically. He created Angel and Light Blue, and he's a wonderful guy as well. And so he gave courses to us. And like whenever I got to talk to him about my creations, he told me, "You'll see, like in 10 years, this is going to be so different how you're creating." And I was like, well, I think I'm ready now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's more than 10 years that I'm a perfumer, and I definitely felt that there is a shift in like the quality of creation that I have. And I just feel like it's the same thing. Like the creativity is basically a muscle. Like the more you train it, the more you are, the more you're creative, basically, the more it's developing. And I kind of realized that there are songs that are inspiring me, like that creates like a different feeling in me, and I already know how to express that feeling, so I know which raw materials to take. And so there is this whole pattern in my brain now when I look at a painting, or whenever I'm listening to a song, or whenever I'm reading a haiku, like all that stuff, like kind of they are now like falling all in together. Is
Right.
that the right expression?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
cool. That's great that it's all, now it's a new thing for you as well. So you're kind of,
It's relatively
feeling.
new, so yeah, it's been more than 10 years that I'm a perfumer, but it definitely felt like, so it's been maybe a year or two that I definitely feel that like, oh, okay, like creation becomes more and more smooth, and I have these links in my mind. I have a sufficient knowledge and experience that I can basically create like just everything. I can transform everything into scents.
Wow. And how many, so behind you though, that's the organ, and those are just essential oils, right? Those are individual, um,
Yes, those are perfume raw materials, single
right.
ingredients. Yes, but I just want to highlight that we don't only just work with essential oils. Like modern perfumery would not survive without synthetic raw materials, and we do use synthetic raw materials as well, just like 100% of other perfume houses.
Right, right. How many would you say there are that exist in the world of these kind of oils?
Difficult to say because some of them are active and some of them are not really used. I would say about like 5,000 plus.
Wow.
Yes.
And
And we use, but on a daily basis, I'm sorry, I just want to say, on a daily basis, we're using maybe 100, 200. And in like, I have a selection of 400, 500 ingredients.
wow. And are there any like particularly unusual ingredients that you wouldn't think, that wouldn't be common knowledge to an average, to someone like me who doesn't really know anything about perfume, but for you, like, would you say there are specific ones that are pretty unusual, but you incorporate in a lot of your works?
That's interesting. Those that are very, very unusual, we're not, some of them are like very interesting. We talked about musk. That's a
Hmm.
very, very unique raw material, but it used to be, not so much anymore. Let me explain why. So we actually use now synthetic musk, but it used to be a natural raw material, and it used to come from the musk deer from Siberia. He
Hmm.
has a special gland between the genitals and the belly button, and so there was this gland that looked like a bag, like a hairy bag, basically from the same like texture as his skin. And so it would have the secretion of his body, and that is called musk. And then they would just cut this bag, it's called the musk bag, and then they would dry whatever is inside, and then they made natural musk from it. And so this is not anymore like thank God this is not anymore in use, because it used to kill the animal in the process. And so from 1970s, it's not anymore available to use. But that was a very interesting raw material. I had the chance to smell it, and it smelled like a very dirty house of a very, very dirty goat.
Yeah.
But some modern masks, what we're using right now, is just one ingredient that they were able to synthesize from this very complex smell, and it smells like what I just told you. It smells like Johnson and Johnson baby powder, basically.
Wow.
And so hence it's not anymore so unusual, but it is very, very common, because that's one ingredient that we use for creating longevity in perfumes.
Wow, that's awesome. And how different is a synthetic versus the raw material?
Oh, very completely two different things. Yeah. So one of them is very, as we say, animalic. Okay, so just really dirty and very goaty. Like you could actually smell the animal,
Mhm.
And this other one is like a clean, soft, quite light smell.
Oh, cool. I was curious, have you worked at other perfume houses prior to starting your own?
Yes, I did. I worked for many companies before starting my own. And I remember that whenever I was employed, I kind of felt like, oh, I didn't learn perfumery to be limited by creation. And not many people know that, so maybe it's interesting for me to share that usually when we are creating fragrances, we have a brief, we have a document that it's being sent to us, like what are the requirements for the specific smell. And it always has a limitation in price. And I could not so much get behind that. I felt that more often than not, we had to do something that is not expensive enough for me to use those wonderful raw materials that I love and I cherish. And I actually do that. I make sure that I use them in my perfumes.
Great. And it would be great to just describe a little more about the nose, because I watched some
Mhm.
documentaries and I know that the palette of, perfumer, I mean, they have such a wide knowledge of smells. And I know that they have all these tests that you have to smell and describe what is this oil in there, what's this, and you have to get it really accurate. So it's like, it'd be great to hear a little bit more what you experienced, from that.
Okay. So, I get a lot of question if my nose is unique, and I don't know actually. What I know is there's two things that I did realize. One of them is even prior me being a perfumer and going to perfumery school, my nose was never tired. Like I would go to perfume shops, and I would smell 100, 200 perfumes, and I would have absolutely no problem smelling with the same intensity. I would get maybe mentally tired because that's, intense sensations, but my nose would still smell basically the same level. And the second thing that I think is a difference between, let's say, somebody whose nose is not so trained like mine, is that I do have a very strong reaction to smells. Whenever I'm smelling something, like very, very often I have the feeling that, oh my God, this is the best thing that I ever smelled. And I feel like, okay, that's maybe passion, me, that's a liking sense, but I really have a physiological reaction in my brain, like what we describe perfumers as a mental orgasm. And that's
Mhm.
really just happening so often to me. And I know that it doesn't happen to most people, let's say. That's
Wow.
the part of like if my brain is if my nose or the link between my nose and brain is special. I don't know, but if it was special, I think these two were the specialty of it. Apart from that, whenever you go to perfumery school, you start to train your nose, and it's an extremely high level. Until then, even though I was very passionate about fragrances, I would go to perfume places, like I would go to perfume shops and I would smell. And sometimes when it was not a perfume shop, I would just go to an average grocery shop and I would smell all the gels for like having shower and the fabric softeners, because I was interested. But there is like a huge like quality jump whenever your nose is actually starting to be trained with raw materials. You suddenly smell cedarwood, you suddenly smell all the spices that you never heard about. Like you have to learn how to how to recognize them in a blind test. So that's like a huge thing. And it's been more than 10 years I'm a perfumer, and I'm working every single day with smell. So of course my nose is very, very sharp by now, but I do think of it also as a muscle, like very trained, hence very, very sharp, or very, very unique, because there is not much people whose nose is so trained so much.
Hmm.
Is that answering your question?
Yes, absolutely. And how does it impact your regular life? Like when you're, let's say, going shopping, you smell leather, or if you're going food shopping, you smell cheese. You're in France, so there's definitely enough cheese there to smell.
Oh, there is a lot of
Yeah.
cheese.
So, so you have more of a refined palate, I guess. You could smell and know what is the good stuff, quote unquote.
Yeah, but I'm not only smelling the good stuff. That's the thing. There are bad stuff
Okay.
also.
Yeah.
So yes, so there was like a big thing that was coming whenever I was in perfumery school, is that suddenly you smell everything, and so that was the time when I started to have like 5 showers a day and taking down the garbage 4 times a day, because you go crazy. Everything smells so strong.
Wow.
And then it calmed down, I think, a little bit. But I do have like sometimes these sensations that, for example, like, I don't know, somebody is opening the fridge and we have like a camembert, like one of these cheeses that do have a very specific smell. I can smell it from like 20, 50 meters. Like I can smell it in 3 different rooms behind, or 3 different rooms next to the kitchen, like that somebody opened it. So yeah, in that sense, there are disadvantages as well.
I see. I wonder, does that also work with people as well? If you're like meeting someone for the first time and you're like, huh, this guy, I don't know if he smells like the right person, to do business with, or something like that, No.
I mean, yes, 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 but not only with other people. I also smell myself. Like the smallest. That's why I usually say the smallest amount of sweat, I can smell it on myself, and it's going on my nerves. Like, yes, yes, there is that too.
Sure. Do you by the way, when you wear fragrances, do you normally just wear one, or you always like to change it up, and you have different ones that you're working with or using when you're personally?
So I perfume myself differently, because first of all, every day we have trials that I have to try on my skin. We don't only just try them on like paper strips, but we also try it on our skin. And so I usually have 2 or 3, 4 things that we're going on, and I have them on my skin. And so I'm wearing those. And if I actually go out and I want to change, from the things that we're working on, then I typically wear like one fragrance that like is my favorite at that point. And oftentimes, those are one of my perfumes, because like I made
Yeah.
them and I really liked some of them. Some of them are just fitting my mood more than the others. And then sometimes, rarely, because it doesn't happen anymore since I'm a perfumer, people don't dare to give me perfumes as a gift.
Yeah.
But when I do, then I use them as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. And that's a good marketing tool, just to wear your own as well. So people will be like, what is that? Oh, it's mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're
So
like, no, come on.
yeah, no.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly.
What's your favorite one actually? Just, what is the one that you usually like to wear?
Yeah, so now my current favorite is Hedonist Iris Absolute. And so the story with that perfume is that, like, so whenever we're creating the perfume, we didn't make so much trials from that one, maybe around 200, 250. But something happened in the trial 150. And from that on, every time we tried it on our skin, and when I say we, it's me and my colleague, whose name is Fernando, and he's from Mexico. And we worked together for more than 1.5 years now. And so we tried it on our skin, and every time I just felt like biting into his skin. And I don't have this reaction very often. We have a very healthy, like colleague relationship, but somehow
Sure.
the perfume made it like so amazing that I continuously have like a mental orgasm whenever I'm wearing that. And actually, like I had the chance to present it to a bunch of people, and it seemed to be that there is something really central about this one. So yeah, that's my current favorite.
Great. Awesome. And I like a really random question, but if there was one fragrance that you wish, like that, from the world of millions of fragrances, if there was one fragrance out there, which one would you have wished you created?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I have to think about that. If I have to say one on the top, I do like, so one male fragrance that I really like to wear is Boss Bottled. It's a classic, yeah, it's called Boss Bottled, and sometimes it's referred to be a classic because it's been more than 20 years. It's like it's on the market. I really like that one. And I also like Dolce Vita from Dior. Uh, I'd say I think those two, but obviously I have like a very personal relationship to them, so it's not even related to the structure of it or anything else. And I'm sure I would have like a whole list if I could think more,
Sure.
but yeah, on the top of my head, I would say those two.
Great. And now just also another random question. Like, what is your after perfume? What are some favorite things that you like to be a part of and do? Do they involve smell as well?
No, not specifically. I like dancing a lot,
Hmm.
and so I think I can completely just lose myself in that, and I love it. And now that there is COVID happening, and we don't really have occasion. I used to be part of like an illegal salsa club. I'm not even sure if I should be proud of that or not, but that happened, and then like it got busted, so no more of that.
Oh,
Yeah, and I really like reading as well.
great. I'm also curious. Do you also work with men's perfume a lot as well, or that you're really focusing on the female fragrances?
So I don't think of perfumes as being male or female by definition. I think of a fragrance as like 70 ingredients. It's just an average. Okay, it could be anything from 25 to 150 to 600. But let's say there is an average of 70 ingredients together, and there is harmony in them, and then there is your skin as is coming as an additional ingredient, and either there is harmony between these two or there is not, and that's really not dependent on who is advertising the perfume. Is it David Beckham or Cindy Crawford, or if there is a round, like a round pink bottle, or it's a square like a black bottle. It really doesn't matter at all. And I do encourage everybody that they try typical female fragrances for men and vice versa,
Hmm.
because you could get really, really surprised how amazing some of the like opposite genders fragrances could smell on your skin.
Sure. And everything smells different on everyone based on their skin, right? So
Absolutely. Everybody has their very unique smell of skin. That's DNA, like that's like related to a bunch of factors, but everything smells so different. Everybody has this experience that, like, oh, my friend has this and I bought it and it smells horrible on me. So yeah,
sure.
don't do that. But this is why it's so interesting to try, why not just double your chances for the best perfume ever by, going not to the right, but to the left in Sephora. So yeah.
Yeah, and I see that you are now offering some traveling packs, right? You just released that, I think. I just saw it on your Instagram.
Yes,
So
exactly. So we have a travel size collection kit, and we have basically all of our like hedonist series. It's called the first series of perfume that I launched, and that contains the Cult Scent Hedonist from 2013 that actually allowed me to be called Perfumer of the Year, and that was also awarded as Perfume of the Year. So I'm especially proud of that one. And then
congratulations.
now we just thank you so much. And I just launched another one, which is the absolute version of this, and it contains 3 fragrances, and they're quite oriental and powerful and very long lasting, and you should try them.
I Yes, absolutely, love to. Um, yeah, I so I would guess some last questions like what direction, after COVID, um, how are you thinking your business will go out from out of that experience,
Yeah,
Or
I have no idea. And seriously, I would love to, present myself as somebody who has like a very strong vision, but the thing is we have no idea, okay? Like we as an industry, I'm saying. And I'm seeing that, my fellow perfumers are desperate, and I'm feeling like that my providers are also desperate, and I see, of course, the clients are also being desperate. So it's a very difficult situation. What has been going on is that like I can travel a little bit around Europe still for work reasons, and I'm giving courses, and I think that's a pretty cool thing that I have the possibility to do that. Um, but things are uncertain, and we're all in this together. Like, it's uncertain on the whole humanity level.
Right.
So I hope we're gonna make it, but it's difficult, and it's difficult for everybody, and we have no idea what are the long-term consequences of the situation right now.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm confident you'll do just fine. You have such a great work ethic and putting all this together, and you know just
Oh,
hearing how
thank you.
you all, how this all came about. It's really remarkable. Um yeah,
Thank you
thank you so
so
much
much.
for joining me. I know you're very busy, and we tried to make this happen for a while, and I really am glad that we had this opportunity to catch up and do this meeting. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
again.
much. It was lovely. Thanks to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's please, I would love to come and meet you when we can. I'd love to go to Paris. I have
Please
a
come
good
to
friend there,
Paris.
so yes, I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
plan
yeah.
on
That would
doing
be
that.
amazing to see you again.
Okay, let's do that. That'll be great. And yeah, and I'll look forward to trying your fragrances. I think my wife will really enjoy them. So
Yeah.
so I'll look forward to that. And yeah, and let's keep in touch. Thank you so much again.